Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first game in this best of 15 series between Umeu and Aizamk. Two top-level players battling it out in a potentially 15-game-long series for a small cash prize of $20, courtesy of myself. This is an event which I am hosting, which I am calling Challenges of the New World, and I hope to host it quite regularly, every few weeks or so, and basically we'll get two of Age of Empires 3's top-level players together to battle it out in a series of games for a cash prize of some description. Now, this is Season 1 of Challenges of the New World, so it is what it is. It is a best of 15 between Umeu and Aizamk with a cash prize of $20, though in Season 2 and Season 3 and onwards and etc., the cash prize is quite likely to increase, and so is the amount of games required to be played. And of course we'll have new competitors, though I am thinking of making this a King of the Hill style event where the winner of this season will stay on to compete against a new competitor next season, though I'm not entirely sure. We haven't got it locked down yet, nothing's set in stone. This is a fairly new thing for me, but hopefully it will become quite regular. Anyway, what am I doing here? Well, basically, this is no ordinary best of 15. No, this is a true test of skill at Age of Empires 3, because unlike, say, in PK Clan Tournament 4, where you only really need to be good with a select few civilizations, I mean, you can't play the same civilization twice in a row, since the civilization rules wouldn't let you do that, but you could just pick a bunch of civilizations that you were good at and rotate around them. But for this event, you will genuinely need to be good at every civilization, because the rules are you must defeat your opponent once with each different civilization, or for at least this first season of Challenges of the New World, you will be defeating your opponent once with each different vanilla civilization, the original 8, because I thought about using all 14 available on the Asian dynasties, but that really is a lot of different civilizations, and that would create a best of 27 if we were to use all of them, and I think at the moment the cash prize isn't quite high enough to justify asking two people to battle it out in a best of 27, though I do think a best of 27 is possible. But it might be something we'd look into doing, perhaps, in a future season of this event. But here we have Umeu just receiving his first home city shipment, Distributism, which is a 1.25 wood per second trickle. He's also starting to research hunting dogs, and has found here a nearly mature coyote pup that he can tame. And of course, as he's playing Russia, we can see that by the home city flag there, and of course, almost every flag on the main buildings, the market here, and his town centre, playing as Russia. This is actually quite a useful treasure to find as Russia, because, you know, you only have the one scouting unit, which is your explorer here. I mean, it's not like you're playing as France or Dutch, where you get that native scout or envoy. I mean, if you did have a native scout or envoy, this coyote would probably be a bad treasure, because, you know, there's no need to get something like that. You might as well head over to that 80 food treasure that your native scout has probably found and start working away at that. But as Russia, it's a hard life, you know, anything that moves is really quite useful. So there we have it, a coyote for Umeu. You're going to get some scouting done there. He's found his first herd here, which he has already started to bring in, and he's got this one here. But looks like he's going for that 17 settler age up. He's got, of course, all 17 in queue. He has a market up, getting hunting dogs, and looks like he's going to be investing into the more boomy approach that Russia can adapt or adopt. And of course, I think that is the stronger version of Russia to take, the one that takes the game to the late colonial, because Russia really do flourish later on in the game. It's just, at the beginning, there's not so much going on for them, really. I mean, they start with 5 settlers, which is a big disadvantage. I mean, sure, you start with extra crates to compensate for the settler that you don't have, but 200 food only really takes you to the 4-minute mark, considering a settler gathers 100 food every 2 minutes. So, you know, after you hit up to colonial, like, well, I'm behind again now, and that's great. But, yeah, they also don't have a settler shipment, age 1. Really hurts them out. I mean, yeah, they got 1.25 wood per second, that's something, but it's not as good. There's no shipments for, you know, settler shipments in age 2 either. It's just the issue here is that early colonial, they really struggle to have an economy. I mean, sure, they've got those 3 military unit shipments, and they can get their blockhouse up before they've even aged, which is, of course, their barracks, but, you know, you're not going to be training that many units out of it with a really small economy. It's just that your settlers train 30% more quickly at your town centre than any other civilization, due to the fact that they train in batches of 3. That's 10% for each settler. And, that means, like, around the 10-minute mark, you're going to be crazy ahead if you can get that far in and just play defensively until that time. And your units are cheaper, yeah, they are worse as well, they're not quite as strong, but they're actually, what a lot of people don't know, more cost-effective in terms, they're actually stronger for their cost than any other unit in the game. And I think that makes Russia really powerful. I mean, they certainly can rush, and we'll switch over to Aizamk, who is a more of aggressive player, and is actually, by the looks of it, going to rush. He's almost got his blockhouse up into the Colonial Age. That 5 Cossack shipment already on the way, and here we see, oh my lord, Umeu has put up a wall, trying to put up a wall around the blockhouse, but it clearly has given up. He's wanting to encase the blockhouse in walls, and that would prevent it from actually training any units. It would become a useless production facility and would be basically just a waste of time. But, giving up on that wall, we see here Aizamk has placed this one here quite strategically. That will stop any wall coming across this particular side, meaning that it will still function as a blockhouse. It can spawn units. But here, using, well, clearly Aizamk is playing as Russia as well, but putting the 3 military shipments that it has, or at least one of them, to its rushy potential. Russia can rush, and Aizamk going to show us here this. It's perhaps not quite as solid as the late Colonial, but here, these 5 Cossacks going to come in to kill some settlers. The settlers apparently going to go into hand combat. We'll switch over to Umeu. 5 musketeers popping out of the blockhouse. That's why they're in hand combat. Putting the musketeers into hand combat right away. They have a 10 times 3 multiplier, damage multiplier against these, killing lots of settlers, but I thought he would run away from the musketeers because he's losing Cossacks very, very quickly. Only 1.5 left even. One of those is half hit points. And these 5 musketeers here that he popped out of his barracks, his first batch of military units, going to go down quite quickly to these musketeers and the blockhouse and town centre fire. And we see 5 Cossacks of Umeu popping out, going to engage the musketeers of Aizamk here in his base and destroy all of them. These 2 Cossacks coming in to kill a settler, those 2 musketeers starting to kill them. 1 Cossack going down, all of the musketeers going down, only 1 Cossack left out of that initial batch of military units, just trying to kill the settlers, being hyper aggressive, not even trying to conserve any military units. I mean, raiding is one thing, raiding is definitely a good thing to do, but sacrificing that many military units just to try and kill some settlers, really, I'm really not entirely convinced that it was a good idea, because Aizamk is now behind in terms of score, and his rush is not going to be very effective because those initial military units are gone. Basically, you want to be aggressive, try and kill the settlers, but don't lose any of your units, or try not to lose too many. Just try and, stack them up until you have a sizable force, and then you can go in and do some aggression like that. But here, losing all of those units, and apparently doesn't even care. He's got his market up. I saw steel traps going up. I saw clearly what, he sent spies trade as well, going really, really eco-heavy straight after that push. Here's Umeu coming in with his Cossacks here, going to try and down that 1 Cossack there, going to try and kill the settlers. Of course, he doesn't want to have any idle military, whilst, they might as well use them to do something useful, otherwise it's like having idle resources, basically. But, yeah, Aizamk being hyper-aggressive just to try and kill some settlers here. He's got 20 settlers, we'll count it as 23 due to those ones about to pop, and Umeu on just 17. He's actually, 3 behind. Or even in 6 behind, basically, now that Aizamk has got these, got the 3 more out. That's crazy. He's 6 settlers behind, and he went up later. He went up with the 17 settler age up with the market, and was trying to play the boomy route. Aizamk investing into early pressure. Instead of building a market and going up with 17 settlers of his own, he decided to invest into his economy by actually just shipping basically remove 6 of your opponent's settler shipment. Not quite that many, he didn't actually kill 6 settlers, I don't think, but basically investing his first military shipment as a remove your opponent's settler shipment in order to get ahead economically, which really isn't very secure. You cannot guarantee settler kills. Absolutely crazy stuff from Aizamk here. Really, really strange build orders, but this guy is renowned for strange build orders here. Umeu almost getting sandwiched between those musketeers and these Cossacks here, but managing to escape these other Cossacks of his away. Anyway, Umeu is actually what I would call the king of standard, whereas Aizamk is very much the opposite. Does very, very crazy build orders that challenge the meta game, and I think for that reason you don't expect him to come out with what he does. I think this Russian mirror is only just a small glimpse at the kind of stuff he can come up with. But it's really odd how he, went for this all-in rush with the 5 Cossacks, 5 Musketeers, but then just suddenly decided to switch to economy. I saw him getting steel traps and placer mines and his spice trade upgrade. He's not, just wasting his units as well. But now, clearly, it's paying off for him. Perhaps the extra settlers that he now has over his opponent is starting to pay off. These military units being trained, of course, sending the military shipments as well. Now going to start applying the pressure again, coming in here, but realizing he's not going to do too well under the cover of course, this blockhouse, but taking the opportunity to kill off his opponent's cavalry mass with his own when he had the opportunity to. But now, actually, Umeu's got a sizable force there. Is that what? Is that Grenadiers? How did I not notice that? Grenadiers. I'm calling Umeu the king of standard, but actually, creating some very questionable units there. These ones are not too good against really anything in particular other than, well, I suppose heavy infantry. I mean, they've got negative multipliers against cavalry and light infantry. Light infantry referring to things like strelets, crossbowmen, and skirmishers. And, yet they don't have any positive multipliers, but they have no damage is affected against heavy infantry such as musketeers, though I suppose they're still quite effective against strelets, considering strelets have such low hit points, and these actually do splash damage area 3. But, an interesting unit. I think it's okay in this particular matchup. But a strange unit to be choosing nonetheless. 700 coin now just arrived for Aizamk. We can see that this is just going to be... where is it? It's at his blockhouse, and Umeu looks like he's advancing with his military. This 700 coin laying at the blockhouse, this makes him fairly vulnerable. If Umeu can take control of this area, he gains 700 coin, and that'll basically secure the win. That'll lock it down. One silly mistake, shipping the coin shipment to the wrong spawn point. But I think this coin is going to be used for, of course, just Cossack production, adding in the musketeers and such. I don't see enough food in his inventory for him to be thinking about using this coin shipment for aging up. But this blockhouse taking heavy damage from these, of course, grenadiers, which have massive siege damage. Anyway, 31 settlers for Aizamk. Umeu on 26. He is behind in terms of settler count, and their militaries are somewhat fairly even at this point in time. Both these players also on a fairly even score, both 97, and I think Aizamk is actually going to be able to protect this coin quite well. Of course, collecting it all up very quickly to make sure Umeu doesn't get any, but bringing his 4 Cossacks in, only 4 Cossacks to deal with all of these Grenadiers, but actually, I don't think Umeu is focusing them down very quickly at all, and Cossacks hard counter Grenadiers like crazy. Grenadiers have that 50% ranged resist, completely negated by the melee damage of a Cossack there, and actually running out of units very, very quickly, only just managing to actually finish off the Cossacks, and there's still one there. More Grenadiers being added in, a 4 Cossack shipment from Umeu entering the fray, but it's not going to be that effective because there's not really that many strelets involved there, and as you can see, these musketeers are going to switch to hand combat and do lots of damage versus the Cossacks, but actually now just going to come in and do hand damage versus the Grenadiers, which, of course, again, are just, not even going to be able to do ranged damage. Melee, they suck in melee mode, and also because they take massive damage from melee attacks as well, and at this point, they've both got fairly even economies coming in, perhaps Aizamk on slightly more, and now Aizamk has this slightly bigger economy. Aizamk now about to receive 13 strelets as well to enter this fight, going to keep up the pressure, and Umeu, of course, actually only just starting to send a military shipment. He's going to have to wait whilst his opponent has a larger military there. And also, I believe his food has just run out. He's starting to run out of resources, and he cannot continue to create military units. We see here, actually, only musketeers in queue in this production facility here, which is essentially, instead of building a second blockhouse, he's no longer being able to train any grenadiers from it, and actually only 2 entering the fight here, and actually dying for free just there. And actually, Aizamk gonna win the game. Umeu calling it right there, knows he can't win it, and he is actually his food's just run out. He put up a blockhouse over here to try and secure these deer, but even if it did go on, all Aizamk has to do is march these guys over to this food pile, which of course he can see. We'll put the fog of war on for Aizamk. Actually, he can't see it. Maybe it would have continued. Maybe he didn't know he was collecting food here and wouldn't have gone over to that location. But either way, Aizamk going to take a fairly quick win there with this fairly strange Russian build order of his, where he's extremely hyper-aggressive, focusing on killing settlers and not even caring about losing military units early, and just then transitioning into economy and not even following up the Russian. I don't even know. But that is the end of the game, and because Aizamk won this game, in the next game, he will have to pick a brand new civilization to play against his opponent first, and that choice will be locked in, and then once he has chosen, Umeu will then pick a civilization to play afterwards, probably based on the civilization that Aizamk chose. So in this event, in this best of 15, the loser will always have a slight advantage, as they will be able to engineer a matchup. The next game, they'll be able to engineer themselves a matchup, which they will probably be favoured in slightly, since of course they always get to choose their civilization after the guy who won did. So there's that. Thank you very much for watching, though. My name has been Interjection, and I will see you next time for game number 2 of this best of 15. Until then.